So in this video today, I'm going to share with you 7 things that help my mental health, but I also want you to get involved. So use the comment section below to comment what helps you manage your mental health as well. So if you've seen any of my videos before, you know that I'm quite open about mental health. I'm quite vocal about it. I talk about my own experiences with depression, anxiety, and also as well I talk about losing my dad to suicide and that impact that it had on me. But in this video, I want to share 7 practical tips. What is it that I do every single day, every single week that really helps me stay on top of my mental health and to manage it? Now, if you're watching this over on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notifications for more videos like this, and it'll be really interesting to hear your thoughts, as I say, in the comments section below. But let's dive in. What's the first thing that helps me with my mental health? It's got to be exercising. And when I say exercising is such a big broad term, right? And mental health is so individual. And this is something that I really want to get across with this video here is you have to find out what works for you. And this is what works for me. You might take inspiration from it, but you have to find out what works for you. And exercising for me is really all about running. At the moment, I've been running a lot. I'm training for 8 marathons in 8 days in 8 different cities in March to raise money and raise awareness for children's mental health. So definitely I'm running a lot more. But why running helps me is I think because it's very mindful. It's my time to just go out, put my earphones in and just kind of just listen to podcasts and audiobooks and sometimes music. And I don't know, it's just a very mindful activity. And I find that running really helps me. Also, if I go a little bit deeper, my dad was a big runner. My dad used to run once, if not twice a day. And me and him used to run quite a lot together as well. And that was our time where we used to have quite honest and open conversations. If I look back, that was the time where I felt really almost close to my dad. He would open up a lot more and I would have more of a mature conversation with my dad when we was out running. And I think sometimes that's helped me with the whole grieving process. And sometimes, however strange this sounds, feeling closer to him as well. Going out for that run is something that we always used to do. So I've tried to obviously keep that going. And over the years, 11 years since this happened now, there's been times where I haven't run for like 2 or 3 years. I've just completely stopped. But recently, going out probably 3 to 4 times at least minimum a week has massively helped my mental health. So exercise and running is a huge help when it comes to me staying on top of my mental health every single day. The second one is journaling. I did a video on this recently about the importance of journaling and how it helped me. And I don't do this as much as I used to, but I know that it's a tool that's there if I want to utilize it. And for me, journaling's just me writing down whatever's going on up here. And when it's going on up here, it's heightened. It's almost harder to deal with. They say that we have 70, 80,000 thoughts every single day. And what I found with journaling is writing down what was going on in here, writing down my challenges, my fears, what I was struggling, what I was worried about, and then I'm looking at it almost from a different perspective and I can start to rationalize it, and it's almost like someone else's problems and I can start to figure out solutions. And just spending 10, 20, 30 minutes on that journaling exercise made me feel calmer and made me feel more optimistic and feeling like I can manage what was going up here, a lot better as well. And like I said, I've done a video on it already. I talk about what I do in terms of journaling and different techniques that you can utilize. But I think journaling's a great way, that it's just you. It's another mindful activity, but it's an easier way almost of expressing how we feel. Talking about it is great, but sometimes just writing it down is an easier way of getting started. So journaling is the second thing that helps me with my mental health. The third one is nutrition, it's diet. It's what am I feeding my body and what am I feeding my mind? I remember someone said to me, if you bought a brand new Ferrari, you wouldn't put the wrong petrol in it. You'd put the best petrol in it. If you had a Ferrari and the tires, exploded, would you go and get the cheapest tires or would you get the best tires for that Ferrari? And I think, nutrition in a way is so important and we often overlook it. And there's been a lot of studies that have shown that gut health has a real link with, of course, mental health. But I know that if I've had a couple of days or even just one day of eating badly, the whole day of eating just junk food, it has a massive impact on my overall mood and my mental health as well. But nutrition, again, is one of those that's so individual and you have to find out what works for you. But what works for me is fasting. So intermittent fasting is something that I've done for, I'd say, a couple of years now. I'm not as rigid and strategic with it as I used to be, but what I try and do is push that first meal back as far as I can possibly go. So I'll typically maybe eat maybe an averagely sized meal, I don't know, about 1 p.m. sometimes, 2 p.m. sometimes. What I've started to do as well is bring that meal a tiny bit forward, but not have such a huge meal. But for me, and again, a lot of it's time, but intermittent fasting is so important for this, because individually, if I get up and I have a big meal in the morning, I can feel my mood declining. I feel fatigued. I feel tired. I feel like I want to continue to eat and eat and eat and eat. So for me, intermittent fasting works the best. Drinking a lot of water. I recently just got myself this off Amazon, which is a gallon bottle of water. Obviously, it tells me the times as well. But why this is helpful for me is because I can literally in the morning fill this up all the way up to the top of the gallon, and then it's there by my desk. I can take it with me and I can try and get that water intake in. If I've just got a glass, I'll go and fill that glass up, I'll drink it, and then I'll get stuck into work, and then I'll almost forget to fill it up, right? So having this ready for the whole day and having that reminder of I've got to drink enough water is, again, massively helpful for me as well. And also I try and adopt as well, I'd say an 80-20 principle when it comes to nutrition and food. I cannot be obsessed, I cannot be strict with it, because in a way it has more of a negative impact on my mental health. If I find myself eating a slice of cake, if I'm obsessed with it and I'm strict and I'm really rigid with my nutrition and my diet, eating that slice of cake puts me in that self-sabotage mode of beating myself up, telling myself that I'm not, strict enough and I'm not determined enough, and just a slice of cake can have a massive impact on my mental health. So I try and keep that 80-20 sort of balance. I try and look at it as more of like long-term goals. So if I eat a cake, I eat a cake. Like, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm going to accept it. But what I try and do is focus on making sure that my diet, my nutrition is good 80% of the time as well. So you have to find out what works for you. But honestly, a couple of bad days of eating bad foods, my mental health is not in a very good place at all. The fourth one is meaningful work. I started a fashion business about a year after my dad's suicide. I was 19 years old and I made a huge amount of mistakes with that business, but equally I learned a huge amount too, because I did everything by myself, and I managed to develop the skill set to, internet marketing, digital marketing, social media, building a website, whatever it is, running a business, outsourcing, all of that I kind of managed to learn myself because I almost did everything on my own. But I look back, and even though the fashion industry and building that business was a bit of a passion, it was mostly down to money, right? And I'm completely honest about that. I wanted to build a business that made me wealthy, so of course I could make my dad proud, and I could obviously, have the freedom to travel and do what I wanted. I was young, I was not in a very good place, and I was drawn to that kind of laptop lifestyle. But really the work that I now do, taking that transition away from the fashion industry into work for mental health, creating content like this, doing the work that I'm doing, whether it's public speaking, whether it's speaking to people, whether it's something on social media and someone saying the video really helped them, whatever it is, meaningful work for me is a massive help to my mental health. And there's a real link that if we help others, it helps ourselves. And meaningful work means that I wake up every Monday morning just raring to go. And the problem that I have sometimes is switching off, because I'm on this huge purpose-driven mission of normalizing mental health and trying to get people to talk about it and to help people that might be suffering in silence, helping people like my dad and trying to set up a brighter future for my two kids, to eradicate that stigma around mental health. And when you have this purpose, it drives you, it moves you forward, it gives you that hope, and it gives you that meaning to continue to fight even on those days when your mental health isn't in a very good place at all. So I think you have to try and have some meaningful work. That doesn't mean you have to dramatically change your career. It could be that you do some charity work. It could be that you help others. It could be that you do some voluntary work, or you get involved in communities or groups, whatever it is. Try and do something that's meaningful to you, because that will dramatically help your mental health as well. Tip number 5 is to talk about it. If I looked back at my own experiences of, as I say, dealing with that depression, the anxiety, the exhaustion of wearing that mask and showing everyone that I'm fine when really I wasn't, I would say there's no one thing that dramatically changed the projection of my mental health and my life, and kind of sitting here as I am now talking about it. There was no one thing, but talking about it in therapy definitely put me on that path to get to where I am today, to be able to manage it better than I've ever done before. And I would say talking about it in that instance was such a huge relief. Now, it's very difficult for people to talk about it if you've never spoken about it before, and I think it's realizing that you aren't alone, that you're not weak if you are struggling with your mental health, that it isn't shameful. You probably won't be judged if you find the right people. Finding the right people to talk to is really important, but we have to talk about about it. The more we take these painful emotions and this negativity, these traumatic experiences that we've been through, and I did it, and we put a bottle top on it and we push it down, we suppress it, and we say to ourselves, I'm going to ignore that and that will disappear, and we distract ourselves with cars, money, work, alcohol, short-term fulfillment, short-term hits of dopamine to the brain. The worse it's going to get, right? That painful emotion, those suppressed emotions aren't going to go away. They're only going to come back worse. So really, we need to express it. We need to talk about it. We need to try and relieve that pressure, because just ignoring it and suppressing it isn't going to help. So talking about it is really key. You have to try and find someone that you feel safe to talk about it to. And that took me 2 or 3 years, 2 or 3 therapists to be able to find that person that helped me. The person that I felt safe to talk about my dad's suicide and how I was managing that as well. But equally as well, now I know that I have 2, 3, 4, 5 people that I can go to straight away. I can default to, and I can message them, I can ring them, and I can talk to them about how I feel. And I don't judge myself for doing that as well. So it's one of the hardest tips out of all of these, but we need to know that we can talk about it, because for me, that massively helps my mental health as well. The 6th one is reading. Now, when it comes to reading, again, it's very individual. But when I'm talking about reading here, there were some books that just massively helped me and helped my understanding of my own mental health, and also, the experiences that I've had as well. And I was quite drawn down a spiritual path. And if I'm honest, Anne, the lady who helped me, was, if you want to call her a holistic therapist, she almost takes a more of a holistic approach. And I really started diving into books from, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle, Neil Donald Walsh, Byron Katie. There's so many others as well. And I just really resonated with these books. And these books gave me a different awareness, a different understanding, and also, more education around mental health and just emotional intelligence in general as well. And I'm still an avid reader. I read a lot of business books. I read a lot of general self-help books as well, but really kind of, spiritual books, and kind of looking at it in a different way and trying to improve my self-awareness is books that have really helped me. And when it comes to reading, it also is a very mindful activity. Just 20 minutes of reading in the morning is you, and just that mindful activity of reading a book. And it's something that massively helped me. I don't read as much as I used to, because I've got quite into podcasts and audiobooks as well, especially when I'm out on my run. But reading has been a massive help for me. What I'd also say with reading as well is, whenever you're getting books, especially around self-help, I often avoid reading them from cover to cover now. So what I mean by that is, I might just pick a book up, I'll read a couple of pages, I'll put the book down, and then I'll say to myself, what have I learned from those pages? What have I learned? What can I action today that is something that I've just learned from those couple of pages? Rather than reading it book to book and not taking action on it, I want to try and take action on these books around self-help, and I think you should too as well. So reading is really, really important, but really what's more important is taking action on what you've read. And then the final one, the most important one for me, the 7th one, is prioritizing it. I am not conditioned to look after my own mental health, and I don't think a lot of us are. We are almost drilled into us that, we have to eat an apple a day to keep the doctor away. We have to drink enough water. We have to get enough sleep. We have to, eat the right foods, because if we don't do all of that, we're going to become physically unwell, right? But with mental health, we're not conditioned to do that. We're almost conditioned that just wait until something is really bad and then do something about it. So I have to constantly wake up in the morning and prioritize it. What am I going to do for myself today? What am I going to do for my mental health today? Because if I don't reinforce that and prioritize it, I can naturally just ignore it, right? Because I think, as I say, I'm conditioned that way, and I think a lot of us are too as well. And I know from experience, whenever I ignore it, it does get worse. So I have to prioritize it. I have to remember that self-care is a priority. Self-care is not a luxury. So what am I doing today to help me, to help my mental health? And this morning it was going for a 25-minute run. That takes me away from my kids. That takes me away from my wife. That takes me away from my work. But equally, if I don't do that, I'm not going to be a good productive, business person. I'm not going to be the greatest husband. I'm not going to be the greatest dad. So I have to prioritize my own mental health, and I have to remind myself all the time. Now, hopefully this video helped. There's 7 things that help me. Hopefully some of them might help you too as well. But like I said, drop me a comment below. Let me know what helps your mental health. If you're watching this over on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well for more videos like this. Really appreciate your time as always, guys. And remember that you are not alone. See you in the next video.